It's been a hot minute since I've posted anything about my V8 MX-5, also known as the Bullet Roadster. And in this episode, I've finally come to my senses and decided to completely contradict everything I've said before. Classic me. If you're new to this series, don't worry, I've got a full playlist linked in the description so you can catch up on all my questionable decisions when it comes to this car. Alright, let's get straight into it. My V8 MX-5 came with a spare diff, so I thought, let's be scientific about this and pull apart both to figure out the ratios before deciding on which one I'm going to send away for a rebuild. Turns out that these diffs really didn't want to cooperate, but hey, I won the battle in the end. The spare diff was actually the original one that was used in the car with a 3.88 ratio, which I believe means better acceleration but also higher revs in every gear. The diff I just removed though, that's got a 2.86 ratio, which the previous owner installed to keep the revs low on the highway as he was cruising mainly 100 to 110 kilometers per hour with this car. After some deep thought and mild panic, I've decided to stick with the 2.86 and prep it for a full restoration by a local differential specialist here in Melbourne. There's no chance I'm going to attempt it myself. And off it goes. I'm actually curious to know what you guys think. Was sticking with the 2.86 ratio diff a good call, or should I have gone with the 3.88? Let me know in the comments. While the diff is getting some much needed TLC, I am also removing my radiator. I'm pretty sure it's not cooling properly and I cannot ignore it any longer, so it's gonna get sent off to get rebuilt as well. Now onto some rear subframe parts. So I'm looking at these parts now. I'm gonna wash them. If I find that paint is peeling off or if there is any rust spots, I might scuff them back and then give them a coat of the VHT chassis and roll bar paint. For $164, I picked up this wet sandblasting kit since I already owned a Karcher pressure washer. My logic was I already had the pressure washer, what's buying a few more attachments for it? I'm using a K3 Karcher that pumps out 1950 psi paired with a 20 kilo bag of dried sand that I bought from the hardware store for just $10. It blitzed through this part, but there are a couple downsides to wet sandblasting. It makes a mess, and if you don't dry the part quick enough, it starts to flash rust faster than my patience running out. After 3 coats of VHT chassis and roll bar paint, and no, I am not sponsored by VHT, I was now ready to pick up my freshly rebuilt diff. For the price that I paid, I was happy with the result. All I can hope for is the internals were completed correctly. Now, my only job is not to ruin the paint when installing. Easier said than done. To keep the clean look throughout, I'm acid dipping some rusted bolts and giving them a few coats of paint. But for some other bolts, I'll only need to clean the threads, so I'll be trying a different cleaning method.
This is called a tap and die set, and it's used for cleaning threads. Most of my bolts that I've taken out have thread lock on them or some type of glue. So pretty simple, any bolt that has its existing thread lock will be running through this cleaning process.
Good as new. I'll be repeating this thread cleaning process across the entire car, especially for any bolts getting thread lock, like these ones. All bolts torqued to spec, and we are ready to roll. Time to fill this sucker up and bolt it back into the car. Now you might be wondering, where do I even find all the torque specs for this Frankenstein car? Well, since this car is built using Holden, Land Rover and Mazda parts, I've had to source repair manuals from a bunch of 90s cars to stay consistent. In this case, I'm using a VS Commodore Workshop manual and a Mazda Workshop manual covering the NA MX-5 and the first generation RX-7. Alright, the diff is now back in the car, and although with editing it may look like everything was pretty smooth, it was definitely not.
I actually took a few days to do this because I rushed the job. I got too excited. I put the diff together and I realized that I had missed something. I missed one of the top mounts that couldn't be installed after the diff was in, so I had to take everything off again and restart the job. Because it was all apart, I decided to buy some brand new bolts and use them instead, which might have been a benefit because those old bolts and washers were a bit rough. But now everything's back together. So unfortunately, in the midst of the first installation, I damaged the drive shafts. So now I have to replace them before I can call this job done.
So out they need to come, and these axle nuts are already proving to be unusually stubborn. Now that I won that battle, removal should be pretty straightforward, or so I thought. Turns out, they're not going to slide out that easily, so I've had to unbolt one of the control arms to get them free. You'd think I'm winning, but I'm not really, because here comes some more surprises.
Now, these are the new ones, the CV axle joints, and these are the ones that I just took out. It's pretty clear that I don't think they're the right sizes. So according to the engineering for this car, it says that they come out of a second generation RX-7, and the owner gave me them saying that they were identical, but it doesn't really look that way.
Sourcing new CV axles for this car is a nightmare, so instead I had to get the damaged boots repaired so that I can move on with the job and my life. Also, I'm replacing the axle nuts while I'm at it. But wait, the thread matches, but they don't fit on one of the CV axles, so I've had to make some minor alterations. While I've got access, I'm adding extra grease to both CV axle boots, mostly because someone gave it to me for free and I didn't want to waste it. Note to viewer, this stuff is insanely messy, so wear disposable gloves. But hey, everything is finally going back together and getting torqued to spec thanks to my ever-growing collection of workshop manuals.
It's finally complete. And I'm so happy to say that because this car has just drained my life. It's taken longer than it needs to because I've run into roadblocks and I've had to buy parts and no one has the parts and I've had to just take gambles online. It's just been a crazy journey so far. A lot of people are in the same boat as me. Not everyone has the time or the knowledge to just smash out things on their car. Some people are a bit slower like I am and less confident. So for me, this is a massive achievement. But now that the diff is in the car, I'm getting one step closer to driving it. I've got to fix up some leaks. I've got to install my radiator that's just been restored, and I've got to do an AC delete. Once that's all done, and I find a vacuum leak while I'm at it, I'm going to be able to drive it. If it still drives bad, then I'm going to take it to someone and finally get it looked at and get that tuning stuff out of the way. Because when it comes to tuning and wiring and whatnot, if that's actually the problem, I have no idea what to do there. It's been a journey so far, and I hope you've enjoyed the video series. I know it isn't getting a lot of traction, but I enjoy doing it, hence why I keep putting it out. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.
And make sure you follow my channel so you can keep up to date with all my new videos. Thanks.